owners of Saxony Cheesemongers, and my co-monger for the night is Sophie Schlesinger, who has been helping out with this experiment that we've been doing for the past 6 weeks or so. So basically what we wanted to do was, there's a big history of wash-drying cheeses in beer. I'll try not to get too dorky about it, but wash-drying cheese 101 is something like this. The technique was kind of pioneered by monks back in the Middle Ages because, and this is my non-scientific way of telling the story, but as I like to say, you know, the monks in the Middle Ages really had it good. Basically, everyone was kind of fending for themselves, kind of wondering when their village was going to get sacked, you know, the next time. And the monks in the monastery just really had a pretty sweet life. They made their own beer, they made their own cheeses, they farmed for most of their, you know, most of their own food that they ate. And then they spent the rest of their time, you know, reading or chanting or illuminating, you know, manuscripts and doing sort of scholarly things like that. So since they were already making the beer, and since they were already making the cheese, at some point, 2003, and I think I put in enough sweat equity that they would, you know, decide to do me a favor. So they sold me the cheeses when they were just a couple weeks old. And they at Cato Corner usually just wash them in a saltwater brine. But so we got these cheeses young, we started to wash them with these 4 different types of beer, and that's what we're going to be tasting tonight to see, you know, what, if any, are the differences in flavors that you can detect between these different styles of washing. Now I should say, we haven't tasted these cheeses, so we're tasting them blind. So any, you know, feedback, input, tasting notes, definitely welcome. And the thing that I was thinking about actually while we were plating these cheeses is that our cave, we have a little cheese cave in Redhook, Brooklyn. It's a little bit colder than a traditional cheese cave would be. Most cheese caves are about sort of between 50 and 55 degrees. Cheese likes to age at about the same temperature as wine. Our cave is quite a bit colder than that. It's about 40 degrees. So all those little microbes that are actually doing the ripening of the cheeses are working a lot slower at those colder temperatures. So so we'll see what the result is. But I think, and I would like to do a repeat of this experiment and maybe age it at a slightly warmer temperature and see what effect that would have. But that's just me being a nerd. So anyways, without further ado, I'll introduce Jeff from 6 Point to tell you a little bit about the beers. Oh, and I should say, everyone's plate is organized from left to right. You should all be tasting from left to right. And I will let them tell you about the beers that are involved with each cheese.
Thanks for coming, everyone. So my name is Jeff. I'm one of the founders of 6 Point. This is Kristen. She's our local 6 Point Brooklyn rocker. So she's been with us for a year. Wow. And this is one of our many 7th anniversary celebrations because we just turned 7 this month, incredibly enough. So thanks to you guys for being here. And yeah, so this is a fun little project we put together with Anne and her crew. The beers you have right now, one's a Belgian IPA and one's a smoked IPA. So the Belgian IPA is pretty interesting. It's about 6%. It uses a Belgian yeast, so as opposed to being super bitter, grapefruit bitterness, which you get from the hops typically, that stuff's all in there, but Belgian yeast produce super fruity, more juicy kind of flavors. So this IPA tastes kind of Hawaiian punchy. So it's pretty interesting. And actually, it's the one cheese that wasn't washed with the beer for a variety of reasons. Because when the beer has to be ready, we're going to wash cheese with it. And all the cosmos don't always line. But we used a really hoppy, hoppy beer to wash it with, and it also had a Belgian yeast strain as well, which was the thing that was the most important to us at the time. So it should be pretty interesting. And the second beer is called the Signal, Smoke Signal, get it? It's a smoke beer. We're very creative at 6 Point. So yeah, so this is about 6%. It's an amber IPA, kind of hybrid. It's about 10% smoked malt, uses beechwood smoke. And smoke is a pretty interesting ingredient to put into a beer because there's a few flavors that people are like genetically predisposed to be really sensitive to, and smoke is definitely one of them. Some people don't perceive it too much, some people perceive it too much and they like it, or they perceive it too much and they don't like it. So it's a challenge to balance a smoked beer, but we think we do a pretty good job with it. So
Thank you.
hopefully the smoke comes through in the cheese, because smoked cheese is really awesome. So it'd be interesting to see how smoky the cheese tastes without using smoke. It's way easier to wash it. It's probably easier to wash it in smoked beer than it would be to smoke it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't have a smoker, so
Right.
definitely.
So hopefully, so maybe we're on something.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are the first two beers. Do you want me to run through all the beers now, or let them drink this and go back to it, or what?
Yeah, let's drink this and then.
Because maybe we could, like, once we eat the cheese, we can have some kind of something. It was a spell barley.
And they don't work together. Certain beers with certain cheeses. These I haven't paired any of these myself so far, but I think it's going to be good. So
The last two beers are.
okay, yeah. So you have the dark beer. I'll show you the gentleman. Okay, the lighter beer is it's actually a lot stronger than the rest. It's a double IPA. It's called Gemini. So it's like an IPA, only kind of twice as strong. It's really heavy on the hop flavors, like pine and really citrus. There's going to be a lot of tropical fruit notes in there. It's about 9.2% alcohol, so it's really strong. So it'll get you there fast. Like the tropical fruit just kind of bursts forth from it. And that's a result of the yeast strain we use and the sweetness of the malts, and like the really fruity esters of the hops as well. So the dark beer is Guerrilla Warfare. We partnered up with Guerrilla Coffee about 2 years ago. 4? Where's the time going?
We keep him inside.
Yeah. So about 4 years ago, we reached out to Guerrilla Coffee and we decided to do this coffee porter. Style-wise, it's a robust porter. It's about 7% alcohol. So it's really nice malty porter. It's very dark. It's got a lot of like burnt toffee notes to it. And then we thought the coffee would work really well with that, because the beer is bitter and sweet, and the coffee is kind of bitter and roasty, and everything is kind of chocolatey mixed in together. So we hot steeped the coffee for about 4 minutes. And it's a Ethiopian.
It's actually different now.
Oh yeah, what is
We learned
that?
this last night. So you guys had this beer prior to this fall, winter, the last 3 months or so. It was an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe blend, which is a little, I guess, fruitier, but Darlene and Carol thought a more like citrusy, acidic blend would work with the beer. So it's a Kenyan blend, which is a little more citrusy than the Ethiopian blend that we used 2 years ago. So
Yeah, it's really different, and
it's also a different yeast too, right? Because the yeast is drier now.
yeah, we use a different yeast now, and also our coffee extraction method is better. That's a secret, but
It's kind of like you basically make the coffee out of hot water, right?
yeah, you boil the beer as you make it, and then you have to cool it off really quickly. But before we cool it off, we steep the coffee in there. But we just do that more efficiently now, so I think we extract about like 50% more coffee flavor and caffeine and everything than we did in previous years.
Right.
So
it's probably about a pint of that would probably be a shot of espresso, caffeine-wise. There's a lot of caffeine in there. And as far as the pairing goes,
Halfway done.
you guys can ride whatever, but left to right of the plate would be Gemini and Gorilla, as far as the washings go.
don't only pair them with the beer they're washed with. Like,
My training.
see what it's like with the other cheese also, and see if it works better, or if there's more contrast.
Which of the beers we're having are available in retail stores?
Are all available, yeah, at bars.
And also,
They're here at 6
Oh, but they're
o'clock.
Like two Brownsvilles, you'll bump into them where you can ask them to get a cake. You can flip a growler. But they're out about it. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Here for questions. Does anyone have any questions for the whole group before we start yammering away again?
Where's the bread from?
Yeah, where's the bread from? From scratch?
Bien Cui is
a baker that we work with right around the corner. And then scratch bread, so one loaf, bourbon walnut, is from Scratch Bread, which is in Bed-Stuy. And then Bien Cuit is the other loaf that we're using, which is a cranberry walnut. Both bakers are awesome, and you can get them downstairs as well. We carry their products in all sorts of things. So enjoy.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.